Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today we're doing yet another recent reads, and surprisingly, a majority of these books I actually really enjoyed. So I rated a lot of these either 3 or 4 stars. Of course, I do have one DNF to talk about, but we're gonna start this off how we always do, where I just work my way from my lowest rated up to my highest rated. So we are gonna go ahead and get started. So the DNF that I have, I'm actually really sad about it, and that is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This is I don't know if it's young adult or adult, but it's horror. So in this, we are following our main character. His name is Tolly. He's 17. The story takes place in like the late 1980s in La Mesa, Texas. Where I got to in the story is that we're following Tolly, and there is a situation that happens between him and his classmates and his best friend. I DNF'd this at like 19%, so I'm not really sure, obviously, what happened after that one particular incident. But from the synopsis of the story, what I gather is that Tolly ends up becoming a killer. I DNF'd this because it was so slow moving. We are just literally in Tolly's head. He was the only POV that I got. I believe he's the only POV you're gonna get in this story, but we were just in his head. His thoughts just seemed really scatterbrained and like all over the place, and he would go on these like long tangents. And so he's trying to tell us a story of what happened to him, but then he would kind of like start talking about something else or start talking about some other situation, and then he would say things like, okay, well, I guess now I need to get back to the story. And every time he would go on these long tangents, it would like take me out of the story because I didn't really care what he was talking about. I'm just trying to get to how you were a killer. And at 19%, he wasn't there yet. So I just could not stick around to see what was going to happen. Now, take that with a grain of salt, because from the reviews that I've been seeing, a lot of people have been really enjoying this. So I don't know if this is going to be a DNF where I never pick the book back up again, because if somebody can convince me to try again, maybe I will. But for right now, I just had to DNF it. So the next book that I have here is The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. This is a adult mystery. So this one takes place on opening night for The Manor. And from what I understand, The Manor is like this really exclusive, really nice, like resort type of place. And so we're following a lot of different characters. So we're following the owner of the manor. We're following a couple of the guests. One of them is a worker. We're following the owner's husband. So we're following a lot of characters. And basically from chapters that we're getting in the future, there was a fire that had taken place and somebody was killed. And so we're going back in the past, which is opening night of the manor, and we're getting the events leading up to what happened and what led to that fire. So I rated this one 2 stars. I was really holding out hope that this was going to be something that I really enjoyed, because from the books that I have read from Lucy Foley, after reading The Paris Apartment, which I did not really enjoy, I was kind of nervous going into this one, because the only other one that I read from her was The Guest List, which I thought was fine. So the beginning of this to me was just really confusing, because like I said, we're following so many characters. There's a lot going on. We're getting past chapters, like I said, was the opening night, and then we're getting those future chapters where we're also following a detective that's trying to figure out what happened at this manor that caused the fire and this person dying. And then we're also getting journal entries that are entries that took place like years before any of this happened, that comes from one of the guests. And so all of that just kind of like slowed the story down for me in the beginning, because you're trying to piece everything together, and it just took a long time to do that. I did, however, like how it wrapped up in the end and how everything came together, but then I felt like the ending dragged on a lot longer than it needed to. And then there was just some things that happened in this book that just was not explained. There's like, the manor is set like near a forest or something, and so you kind of get the idea that there's something out there, that there's something watching these people, but it's never really explained what that is. And for me, I needed a little bit more explanation. So yeah, I gave this one 2 stars. It hurts me to do it because I was really hoping that I would enjoy this, but I feel like so far this book has been getting a lot of mixed reviews. So if it sounds interesting, maybe try it out, but for me, it just did not work. So then the next book that I have here is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is adult fantasy. This is the second book in the Gentleman Bastard series, and you guys have heard me talk about this series, at least the first book, because I really enjoyed it. So I'm just gonna tell you now, I did not enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed that first one. So in this, we're still following our two main characters, Locke and Jean. They're both part of the Gentleman Bastards group. It's like a thieving crew, and they're basically con artists. So in this book, they're starting another con, and so they were playing games at this counting house. I still don't think it's called a counting house. I forget what it's called, but to me, it reminds me of like a casino that has like different floors and a lot of different gambling games, and the more you win, you can go up to higher floors. So they have been working in this like house, basically cheating in these games to get to higher floors, because their plan is to try to steal from this particular like house. Some situations happen. They end up having to like reveal their plan, and then they're like roping other people into this like con, and then there's lies on top of lies on top of lies, and the story just kind of goes from there. I rated this one 3 stars. For the most part, I enjoyed it, but I definitely did not enjoy it as much as I enjoyed that first book. So I still really enjoyed our main characters, Locke and John. I love their banter. I love their friendship and just how much they care for each other and how much they're trying to protect each other. However, I do think a lot of like the jokes that they were giving each other back and forth, they were kind of corny, and I didn't even understand some of the jokes for them to be funny. So there's that. I did also just like how they're con artists, and like how like one lie turns into another lie, and like you're trying to keep track of everything. So I did really like that. What I did not like about this book, the main thing that I did not like was just the pacing. The beginning of the story moved really fast. The ending of the story moved really fast. I do think that it wrapped up a little too quickly in my opinion, but the middle of this book was just extremely slow. So one of their lies, and the people that they end up roping into their lies, has to send them out onto the ocean, and they have to become pirates. I always get kind of nervous when we have books that's like set on a boat or like a ship, because I'm not familiar with that kind of terminology, and so it's hard for me to like picture what people are talking about when it comes to like boats. Part of this story was them getting trained to be able to be the captain of this ship, and so they were spewing out like a lot of terms, and it was like a long time. It was quite a few chapters where we're just watching them getting trained on this boat, and I was so bored, and I never wanted to pick this book up every time I put it down when we were getting to those parts. And then this whole time that they were like out to sea, not a lot happened. We were just watching them getting trained, watching them trying to lead a crew. It wasn't a lot of action, not as much action as I would have thought there would have been, with majority of this book taking place on the sea. So that was really disappointing for me. And I also thought the ending was a little disappointing. I said that it wrapped up fast, but it was like the payoff for almost getting through like 700 pages wasn't good enough for me. And it was kind of funny with how it wrapped up, but then it was also disappointing because it was just like, so we had to go through 700 pages for all of that, and it was just a bit of a letdown. I do plan on continuing with this series because the next book, book 3, I think we're gonna see this character that has been mentioned a lot in books 1 and 2. And so I think we're finally gonna meet this person. And so I'm interested in that. But yeah, enjoyed it, but definitely did not enjoy it as much as I wanted to, so 3 stars. So then the next book that I want to talk about is another arc that I received from Neck Alley. I don't think I said it before, but the book by Stephen Graham Jones, I Was a Teenage Slasher, I did get that one from Neck Alley. And this next book, Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman, I also got from Neck Alley, and this is a adult horror. So in this one, we follow this young girl. Her name is Bella. I want to say she's like 7 or 8 years old. And so we're getting the story told from her POV. And so we learn that there has been some entity that she has been seeing inside of her closet that she has been calling Other Mommy. And so in the beginning, Other Mommy used to just stay in the closet, and then slowly Other Mommy started coming out of the closet, and then Bella has started to see Other Mommy in other places around the house, even outside of the house, and then slowly but surely other people start to see Other Mommy. What's scaring Bella now, after other mommy has started coming out of the closet, is that she starts talking about reincarnation, which Bella doesn't really understand, and other mommy is asking for Bella to like switch places with her. And so Bella doesn't really understand what's going on. So during all that, we learned that Bella's parents haven't really been getting along, and so it kind of makes you think that their relationship might have something to do with this entity. But I gave this one 3 stars. I really enjoyed the beginning of this. I thought it was so creepy, especially because I would be reading this at night. I do have a closet right in front of my bed, and so I was always scared that that dang on closet door was going to open and something was going to come out. So I do think the beginning of this was very creepy. I also liked that we got this from Bella's POV, which I didn't know how that was going to work out, because it definitely sounds like we're getting a story told from the POV of it, like an 8-year-old. And so there's a lot of things that she doesn't really know or she doesn't really understand. And I think that Josh Malerman did a really good job of giving us that story from an 8-year-old, but also still making it feel very adult. So I do want to mention though that this book does not have quotation marks. Usually that would bother me, but because the way it was like structured, I wasn't really thrown off by it not having any quotation marks. But if that is a problem for you, just know that going in. But I do think towards the second half of the story, it did get kind of slow. It kind of got repetitive, and I did like how the book ended, but I just didn't like how slow the second half was. So the ending really didn't hit as hard for me like I wanted it to. But I did really enjoy this. This is a book that I would recommend, even though I'm only giving it 3 stars. I had a fun time with it. So my last 3-star book that I have here is That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. And this is actually a young adult thriller. And I've seen a lot of people talking about this one over on Bookstagram. So that is what encouraged me to pick this up. But in this, we are following 2 main POVs. So the first one is this girl. And in the beginning, we don't know who she is. She doesn't even know who she is. She has been found by this police officer on the side of the street, bloody and bruised. And so she's taken to the police station, and then all of a sudden this man, Wayne, comes in saying, hey, that's my daughter, Mary. And so he's able to prove to the police officer that that is his daughter and her name is Mary. So then we're following another POV from Drew. Drew is a high school student, and 5 weeks prior, his girlfriend has gone missing. And so the whole town, the cops, his friends, they all believe that he had something to do with it because she was last seen with him. And so he has been trying to figure out what happened to his missing girlfriend, Lola. So we're just following both of these characters as Mary is trying to figure out if she's really Mary, and Drew is trying to figure out what happened to his girlfriend. I thought this was fun. It was definitely fast paced. I do think at a certain point it is kind of predictable, and even me just giving you the synopsis, it probably sounds like you can guess where it's going, but I will say there is a bit of a twist at the end. So don't think that it's going to go exactly in the direction that you think it will. But I do like how everything came together. I liked both of the timelines that we follow. There was a lot of action in here, especially towards the end, that I really enjoyed. The only reason why I'm giving this 3 stars is just because I don't think it's really going to be a very memorable story for me. As soon as I finished it, and then the next day when I was going in to write my review, a lot of the details had already left me. Again, this is another one that I would recommend, especially if you're looking for like a fast-paced thriller. I also think it's a pretty good thriller to be young adult, so I did enjoy this. So moving on to my 4-star reads, we're gonna start with this one. This is 11 Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is a adult romance. I've had this book on my shelf forever, so I'm happy that I was finally able to get to it. But in this one, we are following our main character, Macy. And so Macy is engaged. She's engaged to this man that she has only known a couple of months. But then one day when she's out with her best friend, she comes across Elliot, who was her childhood crush. But there was something that happened between Macy and Elliot that prevented them from talking for like the last 10 years. So it was a shock for them to run into each other. Elliot's feelings have came rushing back to him, and he wants to be all in with Macy, but Macy has to figure out whether or not she can get over the situation that happened between them and try to start a relationship with him, or just try and be happy with her fiance. While all of that is going on, we are getting this flashback chapters of when Macy and Elliot first met back when they were like 13 and 14 years old. And in those chapters, we are leading up to the incident that had caused them not to talk any longer. So I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed our main characters, Macy and Elliot. I loved their romance. I just loved how real their situation is. I also really enjoyed like the tension that I felt in this book while we're leading up to what the secret is. And that always makes me nervous because I've read quite a few romance books where we have these characters where they're no longer talking and we're trying to figure out what the situation is. And by the time we figure out what that situation is that led them to no longer talking, to me, it was always a stupid situation and it was something that I feel like they could have talked about. However, in this one, I could definitely see why Macy no longer wanted to talk to Elliot. It was a pretty intense situation, so I can definitely feel her on that. However, the reason why I just decided not to give this one 5 stars is because I did not like Elliot's explanation on the situation that happened. But everything else I definitely loved, and I was definitely here for their romance. So the next book that I have here is Falling by TJ Newman. So I have seen quite a few people reading this one, and it seemed like everybody's reviews that I have seen really enjoyed it. So I wanted to go ahead and pick this up. So in this one, we're following a pilot by the name of Bill. And so at the last minute, he has been sent on a flight from LAX to JFK. And so while he's up in the air, he gets this message that he either has to crash the plane or his family is going to be killed. And so as you can already tell, this is a thriller. I don't think I mentioned that before, but it's basically us following Bill and a lot of other characters. And we're following him as he tries to figure out how not to crash his plane, but also save his family. I really enjoyed this one. I wasn't really sure how I was gonna feel about it, even though I had saw a lot of positive reviews. This had me on the edge of my seat. I also started reading this as I was on a flight to my vacation that I took a couple of weeks ago. And I think that reading this while on a flight definitely enhanced my reading experience because I just really felt like I was in this situation with Bill and all of these passengers. And so I really think it made the reading experience really fun. I also just thought that this was really fast paced. We got into the story very quickly. I liked all of the POVs that we followed. I do think that the reason why this was happening was a little bit predictable. It's something that we've seen before. And so I wish it would have been something else, but everything else I just really loved. I just loved how action-packed this was. I do know this author has another book called Drowning that also takes place on a plane that I'm really excited about. And I also saw that she has a new release coming out this year, also on a plane. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this one was really fun. So then the next book I have is Ruth Ware's One Perfect Couple, another adult thriller. And so we're following our main character, Lila, and her boyfriend, Nico. And so Nico is like this aspiring actor. He hasn't had his breakout role yet until now. And so his agent has told him about this TV show, One Perfect Couple, that he can join, and hopefully him being on this show will jumpstart his acting career. And so the only thing about that is he has to go with his partner because it's a show for couples. So he talks Lila into going with them. The show is taking place and being filmed on like this secluded island with like, I think it's like 4 or 5 other couples. We follow them as they go to this island. They're starting to do all of the filming and whatnot. And then I think they make it through like one challenge that's a part of the show, because basically the show is just centered around seeing who is the more perfect couple. And so they do one challenge, and then that night there is this really, really bad storm. And so because of the storm, like the boat that they would use to make it to like the mainland is no longer there. And so these couples have to try and survive on this island. So this did not go in the direction that I thought it was gonna go. For some reason, I thought that there was like gonna be a murderer on the island that's like picking people off one by one, and that's definitely not the case. This is literally these people trying to survive on this island and all of the issues that come along with that. So for instance, there's a lot of talk about how they're going to ration food, how they're going to ration water. What are the things they're going to be able to do to survive? And of course, that causes conflicts within the group. I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars. I love seeing like them trying to survive. I did not realize this about myself, but I like a good survival story, and I think this did it for me. I did like the reality TV aspect of this and us getting to know the other couples and them doing this like one challenge. However, that is my one downside to the story, is that I wish that we would have gotten more of the reality TV parts. I do think Ruth Ware actually used the reality TV as a way to get these people to the island. I think she could have used anything to get these people to the island, but because she used the reality TV show aspect of it, I really wish we could have gotten like a little bit more. We could have gotten a little bit more behind the scenes, or we could have got to see them do like 2 or 3 more challenges between the couples. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. I definitely like this way more than her release last year, 0 Days. And if you guys are hesitant to pick this up, I definitely would recommend this, especially if you are into survival stories. Then the last book that I have, and the last 4-star book that I have, this is The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina. And you guys know I love me some Sherry Lapina. And so this one, I would consider this like a adult domestic mystery, maybe slightly thrillery. So in this, we're following a couple, Anne and Marco. And so one night they decide that they're gonna go to a dinner party with their neighbors next door. But they have like, I think the baby is like 6 months old. It's a baby. So they have a baby, and their neighbors were telling them that they didn't want any kids at this like dinner that they were going to. So they leave the baby at home, but they bring a baby monitor so they can listen in, and they both switch off with going to go check on the baby like every 30 minutes. So at the end of the night, I think it's around like 12:30 at night, they decide to go home, but when they go home, they're finding that their door is like slightly ajar and the baby is missing. And now they have to figure out what the heck happened to their baby. So obviously, another Sherry Lapina that I really enjoyed. I thought that this was extremely fast paced. The one thing that I feel like I have really started to enjoy about her stories is that they get started like right away. But like chapter 2, the action is already happening and we're already in the thick of things and we're trying to figure out what's going on. And I really enjoyed that. I don't need a lot of build up. I don't need us to talk about, get a lot of backstory about the characters. I just want to know what's going on with the main mystery. And I think Sherry Lapina does a really good job at that. I also really liked, all the reveals and the twist. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a reveal, but something happens in here that I thought was really predictable, but it just did not go or end up in the way that I thought that it was going to end up. So I really liked that. So yeah, I liked everything about this. I liked how everybody is like so shady and you don't really know who to trust, who not to trust, anything like that. I'm really looking forward to her new release that I think comes out at the end. That's coming out. Yeah, I think it's coming out at the end of July. So I'm really looking forward to that. So this is another Sherry Lapina that I would highly recommend if you are trying to get into her books. I think they are all very fast paced. They all have a lot of drama. If you are into domestic mystery thrillers, I think this would be one that would work for you. So that is all that I have for you guys. Please let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these and what are your thoughts. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.